Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the finish line. Evolution with a broken leg season. That was 2025. Joining me here on Rich Sports Talk is the Jets Ward. All of his great links are below. Check him out. Give him a like and subscribe. It has been a season. I wouldn't say a good season. It's been a memorable season for all the wrong reasons. And one of the biggest reasons is, guess what? Between the two of us and all of our viewers, we have the same amount of interceptions that the New York Jets defense had this year. What are your thoughts, F? Again, I know you turned this Buffalo game off. I sadly watched this game. And again, like, super chat, jump to the front of the line. We'll get to your comments in a bit. But, man, we're going to talk mostly about the overarching season. But it's just this game, this season has just been mind-blowingly bad.
Oh, it was awful. And to go a whole season without an interception and like 4 turnovers in total, 4 or 5, that's just embarrassing from a defensive-minded coach. You got rid of Wilkes, and the defense looked worse after he was gone. Everybody was so happy when he got fired. He's probably laughing somewhere right now, being like, it wasn't me.
Yeah, I'm just imagining some bar this offseason. There's Wilkes, there's Jeff Ulbrich, there's Robert Saleh. And they're just cracking some beers and just watching Jets defensive game film and just laughing. I just think that has to be going on somewhere this offseason. It's just the numbers are mind-blowing. The last 5 games, they were outscored 188-54. They're the first team in NFL history to go 5 straight games, allowing 23 more point differential. And what I think is even more damning of all these, do you know what the point differential for the AFC East was? 6 games in the AFC East this year. Want to take a guess?
I have no idea. What was it?
Negative 122. I mean, you cannot make this up. And look, I know that there's going to be a lot of passionate fans that are going to click on this video. They're going to comment below. I even have a poll about your confidence in Aaron Glenn on the community page. But Aaron Glenn, the Jets, and I did a video earlier this week, I feel they're in a no-win situation because we can see that this is probably not going to work out. And I'm going to go through with you all the things that have to go right just this offseason just to be competitive next year. But I just look at Aaron Glenn and I just look at where this team is. And part of it, too, is I think he didn't read the room. He didn't read the fan base. And he said, no, we're going to teach Justin Fields to play quarterback. No, we're going to be competitive. And instead, it was as bad of a season as possible. And right now, I haven't seen the fan base this apathetic and angry in my lifetime, even after the 2020 season, because at least you knew you were moving on from Gase and you're getting a young quarterback, or you thought that quarterback class had something. Right now, if Dante Moore goes back to Oregon, it's going to be a tough draft.
The thing is, too, the way he came off early in the season talking to the media, it's making him look worse, too, being all confident and cocky and then backpedaling on a lot of comments that he made as the season went on. And Dante Moore's probably looking at this. The Jets clinched the number 2 pick. He's probably looking at him and be like, I'm going to go make $7 million, $8 million going back to Oregon. Why would I go to the Jets?
Yeah. It makes sense.
So you're looking at a draft right now where Mendoza's going number 1 overall. The next best quarterback might be Drew Aller, Nussmeier, Pavia.
I think Ty Simpson probably if he comes out. But again, you saw the issues down the stretch with him, with the accuracy at Alabama. He's a guy that's going to have to sit, and the Jets don't really have that luxury. And plus, what makes me feel confident they're going to pick the right quarterback? Because they went into just the wording is so important to fans and to the media. I think that's what gets lost. If Aaron Glenn had come in and said, yes, we're paying Justin Fields a lot of money, but he is going to compete for the starting job. We believe there's talent there, but he's going to have to compete because Joe Tippmann had to compete for the center position.
Yeah.
And Justin Fields was just anointed the starter when he got signed. Maybe that was part of the negotiation. He would only come here if he was guaranteed to start, but I just think it set a bad precedent that he was just gifted the starting role. And you've heard Connor Hughes talk about all throughout training camp. There are guys on his team saying, yeah, we'd be better with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. And that's not exactly a good place to be.
And the game even looked better when Tyrod was in. He was reading the defenses. He was making the easy throws. He was doing everything you needed him to do. Problem is, he just gets hurt way too often. So the season could have been a lot better if Tyrod started, but you don't know how many games you would have got out of him.
Right. And I go back to the game to me that was the deciding game to me was the Bronco game. I feel that game could have changed so much this season. Again, we talk about them maybe winning the Steelers game, but that Bronco game, I think, sent a bad message to that locker room because you left Justin Fields out there. He basically was drowning on the field, and instead of throwing him a life preserver, Aaron Glenn decided to step on his head while he was drowning. Basically embarrassed him. Like, he's going to be known as one of the worst passing games in NFL history. And the players in that locker room are looking around going, we know Tyrod's the better quarterback. You're refusing to put him in there and refusing to help us get a win. And I really think that could have been a game where he lost a lot of guys in the locker room saying, oh, your ego is more important than winning football games.
And I think you saw that too with how like Jermaine Johnson and Quincy Williams' perspective changed as the year went on. Like, we know Quincy's probably not going to be here after this year. Jermaine Johnson was talking about being a leader earlier in the year. And then after that, it's just like he doesn't want to talk to the media. He's questioning Aaron Glenn's comments about effort on the field. It's all this different stuff. And it's like, it's obvious Aaron Glenn has lost this locker room at this point. And to try to get it back, I understand you're gonna have a boatload of money in free agency, but who's gonna want to come play for you when you prove that you couldn't keep the players that you had here, the younger players?
Right.
So it's bad.
It's horrendous. And we'll go through the bullet points and I'll have you give me your opinions. But we talked a bit about this a little bit before the show. And I do think this is very important. And this is, again, people ask, why does Aaron Glenn get to keep his job? I think there's two very important reasons, and both go back to Woody. I think the biggest reason he's keeping his job is he is a former Jets legend. If he was just John Smith, the DC from Detroit, he was a different name, had no connection to this franchise, I really believe he would not have a job. Because you look at the teams picking in the top of the draft, they've all fired their coaches. And I do think Pete Carroll will likely get fired from the Raiders. I mean, they've already pretty much hinted at that.
Yeah.
But if Aaron Glenn wasn't a great Jet, would he, in your opinion, have this job? Or do you think that that's part of the reason they're like, we don't want to do it because he did so much for this franchise and we really like him and we want him to succeed? But, you know, I just feel if he was not had no affiliation to this franchise, he would have been fired.
I think so too. And I thought he would have been fired earlier if he had no affiliation with this team. I think going into the offseason, Woody, even though he hired this group to help us find a head coach, I think Brian Flores was the best option for us.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
He was a veteran coach who had success with the Dolphins, who has been successful in this division with the Patriots, with the Dolphins, and has had success with a great defense anywhere he's gone. Look at how he's doing with Minnesota this year. I know they didn't have the season they wanted to, but that defense was fighting, and they dealt with injuries as well. Aaron Glenn, I think, only got this job because he is a Jets legend. And even with his defenses in Detroit, yeah, they were good, but they were never amazing.
Right.
It was a bend but don't break. Brian Flores' defenses are much more aggressive, and I can see him going to like the Raiders or Giants as a head coach this coming offseason.
Right. And the thing I like with Brian Flores, he brings a scheme. And I think to be a great head coach, you have to be a smart person in the room. You have to out-scheme people. Here's the other thing, like, and again, I'll get to the other point, but the other reason I really wanted to see Brian Flores here was because I really felt he would try to stick it to the Dolphins for how they treat him and how they were basically telling him we're trying to lose games and then we're going to pick Tua even though you want Justin Herbert, and who looks right in retrospect there. But the hard part too, and I saw this a lot, was, well, if we fire Aaron Glenn, no one's going to come here. And I kind of agree with that, because two of the guys that you would probably put at the top of the list are Brian Flores and Matt Nagy. They interviewed last offseason. Why would they come back and say, you didn't hire me last year with the clean slate? Why would I come in now?
I think there's a good option out there that hasn't been mentioned a lot. If you were to fire Aaron Glenn, Doug Peterson, I would bring in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that. Again, works well with quarterbacks, Super Bowl experience. Like I would do it, but the problem is I just don't think. I think Woody also doesn't want this statement, because let's also remember he fired Robert Saleh halfway through last season. I don't think he wants to fire 2 head coaches in the span of 60 months. People will say it's the money. I think it's more of an ego thing because if you remember, he didn't have ties to Saleh and Joe Douglas. That was Christopher who hired him. It wasn't Woody, and this is Woody's first hire in half a decade, and he's going to pull the plug after one season. And the other thing I think that the reason they won't fire Aaron Glenn is I think they feel like in a weird way, if it doesn't work out next year, they have an easy out and say, okay, look, we knew Glenn wasn't a great coach, but we still gave him 2 full years. We probably shouldn't have given him 2, but we gave him the extra. And now if we're looking for a new head coach, well, we have all this draft capital again and all this money. So I think that's part of the reason. But again, they're not great options. And again, I don't think Mike McCarthy, as I see James again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line. Mike McCarthy would have been my number one. That to me is one of the greatest what ifs if they hired Mike McCarthy over Adam Gase.
Imagine we kept Sam Darnold with him and everything. Oh.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So, and the other thing I wonder too is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, and I've thought about this. I'm not sure how invested Woody is in the Jets right now. Part of me almost wonders, would it be better if Christopher was in charge of the operation? Just because Woody, if you remember what's happened in the last 12 months, he's just bought a soccer team over in London. And even at the NFL owners meeting, did you notice what he was wearing? He wasn't wearing Jets colors. He was wearing, Crystal Palace colors. So I think right now everyone needs to be completely bought in to try to turn this around. And unfortunately, the more you kind of are half in and doing these half measures, it's not going to work.
I think him taking a step back and letting the football people run it, people are bashing AG, but I trust Darren Muji. I think the moves he's making have been very, very good. The trades for Juwan Briggs, Harrison Phillips, all of these guys, to speak to a couple. But you need coaching. What was the biggest issue with the Jets in the past? Their coaching was awful.
Yep.
It doesn't seem like these guys are getting coached up at all.
Right.
We had our number 1 guys out there on defense getting bull rushed and knocked off the ball by a backup offensive line. And a Mitch Trubisky throwing all over us today. It was ridiculous.
And that's one of the things that when people are saying, Aaron Glenn doesn't have talent. Well, he had basically down the stretch 6 of the 11 stars from last year. And I always go back to this. What gets you hired? It wasn't the scheme that got Aaron Glenn hired. It was that he was finding guys off quote the street to fill in Detroit and made them a respectable defense. So by that regard, he should be able to find some missing piece or a safety or a corner to fit in here and at least look like an NFL caliber player. And let's be honest, the Jets, the defense, it's basically looked like a division AA team is facing a top 10 team in the first week of a college football season. It's this is basically our warm-up game. It's like the Alabama versus the Citadel. It's that's what it looks like in terms of the difference in talent.
I think the good thing, especially for this draft coming up though, with the defense, it's a defense loaded class. And now that the Jets have the number 2 overall pick, we know Mendoza's going number 1 overall to the Raiders, most likely. Right. If Moore doesn't come out, Arvell Reese is sitting right there. He brings you edge rusher, linebacker experience. And now we have the 15th pick from the Colts. With the Colts pick, we can try to snag Sonny Styles as well as another linebacker. Or we do Peter Woods at number 2 and then Sonny Styles later to try to build up this defense and then get Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, who's one of my favorite safeties in this draft in round 2.
Right. And then a Mekhi Lemon, even with that second first round pick. The hard part is you need a quarterback, and you saw it with Brady Cook. It just wasn't working. And, you talk about coaching. I think that's where I want to start. Because to me, just for the Jets to be competitive, and this is why I feel like this fan base is so down right now, is think about all the things that have to go right this offseason. I'll start with this. Coaching. I think the Jets need to make 2 important moves this offseason. The first is obvious. They need a DC.
Yep.
But Aaron Glenn, is Jim Leonard going to leave the Broncos in that great position to come here? Is Al Harris going to leave the Bears? Who are they going to get? And do I trust Aaron Glenn? Because let's also look at it this way too. The fill-in defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, told us, I interviewed him for this job to be my DC.
Yeah.
So, or is he going to hire the right guy? And right now, my opinion is no. He's not going to get like an A hire. It's you're trying to take a swing on some guy that you hope works out. And once again, hope is a dangerous thing, especially because we've seen over the last 15 years.
And I think the biggest thing too, and those two, you bring up great points, big concerns. Who's going to be the DC? I would love it to be Jim Leonard, or if the Browns blow it up, Schwartz would be a great option. I doubt he comes here, though. He's going to have a plethora of places to go.
Mm-hmm.
Another coaching move I think you desperately need to do. If you want a young quarterback coming in here, get an actual quarterback coach.
Yeah, not a former running back being like, I don't get that.
Exactly. Like Charles London, with all of these quarterbacks, they took a step back. Justin Fields was 4-2 with the Steelers last year and looked like a competent passer. Mm-hmm. You come here and he looks awful, forgets how to throw the ball, and then Tyrod Taylor just gets injured all the time. And then Brady Cook has no idea what he's doing out there. I get it, he's an undrafted free agent, but a quarterback coach is supposed to get them ready for this game, for the games. He's looked awful every single game.
Right. And you look to the reason I agree, you need a new quarterback coach because let's face it, the Jets schematically have not been good. And let's look at where Justin Fields was at this point last year to where he is now. Last year, there was a strong debate out of Pittsburgh. He should be starting their playoff game, especially with the way Russell Wilson played on stretch. And you can make a case going the offseason. You thought, right coach, right system, there might be something still there. To now, after this season with the Jets, does he have employment at the start of next season? There's a chance he's not on a roster next season because of the way it went so poorly here. And if you're a quarterback, like a bridge quarterback on the fence, you look at the Jets situation, you go, well, if they have a running back being the quarterback coach, why does it make sense for me to go there?
Yeah. Bring in somebody like a Chad Pennington or get Mark Brunell over here, somebody who's actually played the position. Hell, I even went on my channel the other day and made a video talking about bringing Dan Orlovsky in. I know he wasn't a great quarterback, but he knows the game.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to him talk. He knows what he's talking about and watches these young kids. I think he would be a great quarterback coach, somebody who's actually played the game. Bring Doug Peterson in as like an offensive assistant / assistant head coach to help Tanner Engstrand. And I think Jim Leonard is chomping at the bit to be a defensive coordinator. He played here. I think he'd have to change the scheme up a little bit because I think he runs one similar to what Rex Ryan did, a 3-front.
Yeah.
But maybe that benefits our players. And let this guy teach. Let him do what he's supposed to do.
Right. And Jim Leonard, I think, will be a very good coach because one of the things I always loved about Jim Leonard was he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the fastest, but he was always just in the right position. And he knew he had to be a smart player on the field to be successful. So I always appreciate, and I think that's probably one of the most underrated signings the Jets have had over the last 25 years. I mean, we talk about Bart Scott, the big sexy signing for Rex, but I'll tell you, if they don't have Jim Leonard on the back end, I don't think they're the team that they were. But then we move on to the next step, and it is free agency. And we'll start with guys on this team. And I'll run down the list, and you can tell me if they're gone or if you want them back or if they're gone. First one, Breece Hall.
I want him back. I think you have to. He was first 1,000-yard rushing year. Congrats to him. But he's a big, pivotal piece to this offense. If you're bringing in a young quarterback, what's great to have? A young running back out there to help you too. And you already got your offensive line ready. Breece Hall comes back with a legit quarterback or a legit great offensive line like you have. I think he needs to be back. He's a big part of this offense.
And I think he's the easiest because, again, I know he can say he doesn't want to come back, but you franchise or transition tag him, he's not going anywhere.
Exactly.
So, Simpson.
Gone.
I agree. I would even give Vera Tucker like a 2 or 3 year contract.
I don't think either of them comes back.
That Vera Tucker will be tough. I think Vera Tucker, because of the injuries, won't have as big of a market. But again, like I've said, I think Simpson's going to get a surprising deal. We see it every year in free agency. There's so much money and there's not enough good offensive linemen. Someone's going to get the bag. So there's a chance both are gone. I could see that too. Let's see. Tyrod Taylor.
I think he retires.
I do too. Let's go to the defensive side. Quincy.
He's gone. I don't think he wants to be back. After we traded his brother, he's like, I'm done.
That to me is one thing that always will perplex me. Of all the moves they didn't make, I would have taken anything for Quincy because you knew he wasn't coming back. I would have said, called Robert Saleh or Jeff Ulbrich, say, give me your best offer on day 3.
Yeah.
Cisco.
No, he ain't coming back.
Everyone's favorite, Michael Clemens.
I swear if he comes back, he's got something on this organization if he comes back.
Yeah, I actually think Jeff Ulbrich and Saleh really like him. I think he's going to end up with one of them.
Oh, yeah. I think he goes to the Niners or wherever Robert Saleh gets a head coaching job.
I think Robert Saleh, it's clear he's a great defensive coach. I just don't see him, unless he goes to a place with a well-established quarterback. I don't see it. I don't get all the love for him for that. But look, I give him credit. He's a great defensive coach. And unlike our current defensive-minded head coach, he has a scheme. So, yeah. This one will be an interesting one. Nick Folk. I want him back, but I don't know if he's coming back or if he just retires.
I'm the exact same way. I would love to have him back, but after the season that he's had, why not go off into the distance and just end it there? He might want to go to a championship winning team in free agency, but I think all the really good teams have solid kickers already. So I think it'd be hard for him. So I think I want him back, but he retires too.
Well, I think the next step is free agency. And again, free agency, I don't try to predict this far out because with all the tags and all the different signings, I wait till we get there. I think the biggest thing will be this. Can Aaron Glenn recruit? Because last offseason, I felt like they didn't bring in enough pieces. I was screaming through training camp, just give Jadeveon Clowney a blank check just to fill out this defensive line. And I think it's going to be really tough to recruit guys here. And the other thing you kind of are worried about I don't think they're going to do it, but you don't want to give A+ money to a B- player. And unfortunately, we've seen that so many times in free agency. To me, free agency is about, can they recruit, maybe not get the biggest fish, but get some nice, like a DJ Reed type of player, someone that's in their mid-20s, you feel can be a good, solid player with a bit of upside. Can you get one or two of those players into this program? And I think that would be very telling.
And there's one, you made a great point right there. One of them, I think, is Reed Blankenship from the Eagles as safety. He's only 20-something years old, 26 years old. He's a captain on that defense. I think he might want to go somewhere else. If the Jets can bring him in, I think back there with Moore, I think that he's actually pretty good. Doesn't miss a lot of tackles.
Oh, yeah.
Physical player as well, leader on that defense, has championship caliber play because he's already won a Super Bowl. Leader in the secondary. I would love to sign somebody like him. I know Linderbaum's going to be out there, possibly.
I would give him a blank check.
Oh, I exactly.
love Linderbaum. He would be my number one target. If he somehow gets a great check, just blank check.
Just sign whatever you want. How many years? All right, go for it. JFM's a fun one, but I don't know if he wants to come back here.
Yeah, I always love the butterfly effect of certain moves. Like we can talk about the Mekhi Becton pick. To me, the John Franklin Myers, the fact that what they got back for him and just basically to take a Sean Hassan Reddick, and that worked out fantastic. It was we can't play Bryce Huff, but we're gonna play. We're gonna go to Hassan Reddick, and that just drove me nuts. But of course, the big talk will be the draft. And as of now, again, pending the Ravens game, if the Ravens win tonight, the Colts pick, which we thought would be 18, could be as high as 15. So the Jets will probably be picking 15 or 16. They have the first pick in the second round at 33 and the 44th pick with the Cowboys. So a lot of ammo up front. Of course, that 33rd pick can easily get back into the back end of the first round. So you get that fifth-year option. The big thing, obviously, we'll talk ad nauseum about the quarterbacks. We have to weigh in the deciding factor. But I look at this. The Jets with those 4 picks, they have to hit.
They do.
And then they have to find guys that are going to be impact players. And it almost feels like you need, with those 4 picks, 2 offensive players and 2 defensive players. And I mean game changers on the defense. Because right now, the big concern, and again, I've heard it all season, Will McDonald looks like he's regressed. Jermaine Johnson looks like he's regressed. I think there's a scenario, Jamian Sherwood isn't on this team next year. I could see him being potentially on the trade market. But look, I think the Jets really have to nail the top 4 picks that they have. Because if they miss on 1 or 2 of them, we've seen it. Like a great example was the Giants in their 2022 draft with Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau. It sets your franchise back.
Oh, yeah, and Evan Neal's a free agent this year, and he got moved to guard. That was somebody I would take a swing on as a young player to be a backup guard.
I would too.
So there's that. The draft, we've seen Muji do one draft, and we loved Armand Membu. Mason Taylor seems really good as well. Malachi Moore was a nice steal in the later rounds.
Right.
But the rest of it, it's not great. AZ Thomas, the injuries are very concerning to me at this point. We got to see what he can do with all this ammunition. You got all these picks. Now what are you going to do with it? The trade up to number 1 is dead now because the Raiders have it.
Yeah, they're not moving.
So they ain't moving. So you're either banking on Dante Moore coming out, or you're just loading up the defense, in my opinion. You can get like a Chris Brazzell as a receiver in the second round, who is a big-bodied guy, but I think the defense is where you need to attack if Moore is not here.
Right. And again, Super Chat jumped to the front of the line, comments and questions. And you mentioned day 3. I think that is going to be a huge factor because we talk about the picks. The problem now is the Jets don't have their 3rd-round pick. So after their top 4 picks, it's going to be a while till they're picking again. Right now, the Jets have a 4th-round pick. They have 2 5th complimentary picks, 3 6s, and 2 7s. I believe that they're not going to finish with those. I feel that they're going to use at least 1 or 2 to trade up. I also am curious, too, to this offseason. I don't think it's talked about as much. Does Muji get creative and do what he did during the season? Does he look to move a late day 3 pick for someone that has a year of, like Brownlee is a good example, someone that's played in the league for a year? You have their tape. You can see that they can play in the National Football League, then taking a dart throw on some kid in college that you're hoping can just make your 53. And the scouting process needs to get better. Like, I think last year, when you look at the guys, Arian Smith is the perfect example. He was a guy where you looked at the potential with the athleticism and you thought you could coach him up despite not having the production. I almost feel like now going into this draft, you have to look for production because they took some big swings on day 3 last year outside Malachi Moore, who was a really productive player. And look, he looks like he can be at least a productive player in the National Football League. Then we're going to coach up this guy and his physicality. And again, this goes back to Aaron Glenn in camp. Oh, Arian Smith can catch. Yeah, he had 11 catches this year.
Yeah.
Great job.
It's going to be a very interesting offseason.
Yeah.
Like you said, we need to hit on those first 4 picks in this draft. We got it. There's a lot of things that we're going to need to do. I think guard is going to be a big one because if AVT and Simpson don't come back, who are you going to have? You're going to have Max Mitchell starting at left guard? What are you going to do with that? Like, I think the guy from Penn State, Iona, could be great late round swing, trade back in the first and pick him up a little bit. Or you can go for like a Jake Slaughter center from Florida and have Myers move over to guard, something like that. The line is going to need to be fixed too at the guard position. But the biggest thing is the quarterback. That's if you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter how well you're going to draft, the team's going to struggle. I can't bear to see a Brady Cook starting another game next year.
Is he going to make the team? I think he's going to be a camp arm. Is he going to make the team next year?
They like him a lot. Aaron Glenn loves this kid for some reason. At this point, if you want to bring in a vet option, Marcus Mariota is an ideal name too. If you want to take a swing on a quarterback, if you're going to trade, Tanner McKee from the Eagles could be a very interesting one as well.
Yeah.
There's so many different things. David Mills.
Yeah.
Fun one.
I know Malik Willis will get a lot of talk. Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a funny one because originally when we came into the last offseason, I thought he'd be the guy they targeted because he reminded me of more of Jared Goff and the type of quarterback Detroit had built around. But I don't know. I just don't trust getting away from – again, I think going to Shanahan helps. We've seen it, a lot of quarterbacks with their career. But I don't know if just coming here is going to help with Mac Jones. But there's going to be so much talk and so many options out there. And the hard thing with the Jets now, too, and we live in a new world where college football, it's not like it used to be. It's not like the kids were racing to get to the NFL to get paid. Now with the rookie wage scale and now with, NIL money, it's like, if I don't go top 15, I think you're seeing it this year, the impact of last year's draft. You look at Shedeur and Quinn Ewers. Shedeur thought he was going to be a top 5 pick, and he goes in the 5th round. And Quinn Ewers, there was a great stat. Texas was going to pay him around $8 million. His contract for the Dolphins this year was $800,000, so it took out a full zero. So rough. Rough.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I agree with Kev. AVT would be, of the guys on this team, my number one priority. But again, it's going to be very telling. If AVT basically does everything he can to get out of here, if some of the guys that have been here are trying to do everything to get out of here, that's also going to be an alarming sign that they don't believe in Aaron Glenn this process. Like, they're going to try to do everything to get out of here. You know, they can say everything they want in the media, but the day of free agency, the Jets, even if AVT, we find out they offered him $10 more extra million, and he's like, nah, I don't care. I'm just getting out of here. You know, I think that will also be very telling. And if that's a sign, buckle up. It's going to be a fun 2026.
It's a good thing. Like, if these players don't want to be here, like AVT coming off a season-ending injury, and they offer him a contract, and he's like, "No, I'm good. I'm going to test free agency." That's alarming. That's scary. John Simpson, I see as one of the players coming out and being like, "I want to see what I'm worth on the open market," and that's basically him saying, "Yeah, I don't want to be here either." If that happens, it's going to be very rough, because I don't think Aaron Glenn is going to be able to get some of these guys in. Everybody talks about Alex Anzalone. If he doesn't come here, and him and Glenn have a great relationship, he doesn't come here, that's scary. Like, who are you going to bring in?
I think that was also something we didn't pay enough attention to last year. And, you know, part of it too is I kept saying, I'm surprised he hasn't brought in any players from Detroit to come to this team outside of Tyler Johnson. And really, I look back on that now and I kind of wonder, was it because they didn't have faith in him? Like, again, I think Aaron Glenn is a great talker. I think he said in that interview every single thing that Woody Johnson and this ownership wanted to hear. The problem is, this is an NFL now where you have to develop players and you have to out-scheme teams. And it doesn't seem like Aaron Glenn is good at either of those.
He's a motivational speaker at this point. He says what you want to hear. But then when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, you look out on that field, the middle is always wide open. We're out of position on every play. The defense has no idea what they're doing. They're missing tackles left and right. And then for him to come out during halftime and be like, we just got to tackle better, that's a joke. It's like, there's so many other things. You're already down 21-0 at halftime, and we got to tackle better? No, you got to do a lot more than that, buddy. He was freaking out on the sideline too, which I love seeing a coach fired up, but it was falling on deaf ears to me. It didn't seem like the players cared.
Right. I mean, Jermaine Johnson after the game, it's been an ugly season. That's something I never want to be a part of again. And basically said, once again, their commitment to Aaron Glenn's vision. I think especially in the NFL, you can lose what's important, which is relationships. I'm going to put it all in for AG and my coach. So again, I do think it's interesting too, because Jermaine's comments last week, I think, really inspired the effort. And he was asked kind of about that again. And he said, honestly, I hope you don't quote this wrong, but it's definitely been the worst season I've been a part of as a team. And a key word, apart. I've got my hands on it. My hands are bloody. Everybody's hands are bloody in this. So for him to say it's on him, I don't fully agree. I think everybody's hands are dirty. I know the character of the men out there. They're definitely going to remember this feeling and not let it happen again. Well, it sounds great, but I mean, this team's been getting clowned. Like, that's been the worst part. Is it's not that they've just been bad. They've been clowned. Like, you have Taysom Hill throwing a touchdown for the Saints. You have today Mitch Trubisky dropping 4 touchdowns and just running the score up. It's just like, it's one thing to be bad, but it is just so freaking low of a point right now. And I it's tough because I keep trying to find the hope, and I try, and again, like Aaron Glenn says, try to hold on to the rope, but the problem is the rope's around all of our necks right now as Jet fans. So we're just like, and look, I understand it's difficult because he inherits all this and all this baggage of the playoff drought, but it's just one of these things. I look back and I kind of feel like he gassed this fan base up and was too defiant early. And the problem is when you start walking stuff back and trying to be like, oh no, I didn't say when you were going to be proud of this team. I think what we were hoping was what the Saints are. Start the season horrendously, but finish progressing, going the right way. And again, the problem is the last 5 games, the progression has gone through the toilet and past the sewer at this point.
It's just been getting uglier and uglier. And he hasn't inspired any hope to the point where we have Jets fans saying, how can you trust this guy to go into a draft and bring the right people in? Because he hasn't inspired anything. Nothing has gotten better. We're all proud of beating the Bengals, the Browns, and the Falcons. But other than that, when we go against legit teams, we get stomped. Yeah. And that's embarrassing. You're getting out coached. The job was way too big for him coming into it. And there's no hope for the future right now with what he's giving us. He can say all the right things. He can do all these great things, talk to the media nicely and as well as he can. But there's so many holes on this team. And I don't think you're going to be able to have a lot of people buy back into you. Like Jermaine Johnson, I think he was saying all the right things, but I think he could be traded after in the offseason because he could demand a trade. There's a lot of players here that you got to clean house with a lot of them.
Right.
Because I think it's just a loser mentality right now.
But I think that was also one of the big mistakes too, because I said, especially coming into this first season, you could have moved on from a lot of these players. I told Jet fans before free agency, because Jamie and Sherwood was someone I kept telling them, look, he might leave in free agency, and it might not just because the Jets don't want him because he's a good player. It's they don't think he fits the scheme, and they know he doesn't fit the scheme. And even when they signed Jamie, and I almost took that as, well, they're probably going to trade Quincy at some point, and they didn't. A lot of the roster issues, they made these decisions. They could have moved on from Michael Clemens. They didn't. They could move on from Tony Adams. They didn't. And, the hard part, too, is I think as a fan base, we all looked at the issues of this roster before the season. The third defensive end position, the lack of a true number 2 receiver next to Garrett, or even a number 3 receiver, the unproven secondary, and the linebacking core without C.J. Mosley. And unfortunately, every single question was answered exactly the wrong way. Like you're just grasping at straws. And what is something that Aaron Glenn does well as a head coach? And I honestly don't have an answer. And that's what I think is terrifying all the Jet fans right now. Yeah.
And I've seen that question posed around a lot on X and everything. I've seen Jake Asman get roasted by people because he keeps asking the question. And he's right. What does AG do right? And at this point, nothing. He doesn't do anything really right. Has he gotten better as a coach? Maybe a little bit. But maybe a little bit. But
maybe.
But the way this team has just faltered coming into December and even before that has been very alarming. And he's not in when you're getting looked at as being worse than Rich Kotite and Adam Gase. That's scary.
If you're in the same sentence as those two, that's alarming. It's in both of those seasons, at least with Gase, you knew that they were going to clean house and that they had, even with Gase, the one thing I would defend with Adam Gase is this: the roster Adam Gase had was terrible.
Right.
I hate this fact that people now look, well, they had to blow it up. They didn't have enough good players. They had an all-pro at every level of their defense coming into this season. And you're supposed to have a great defensive mind. You had, again, I think DeJuan Briggs was a nice addition, but they didn't upgrade Michael Clemens. They didn't develop Michael Clemens. The linebackers looked terrible. And look, Brandon Stevens was, I guess, better than we anticipated. But outside of that, you look at this team and you're looking at all the players, you're like, where did they get significantly better? And I just don't see it. It's just incredible.
The only bright spot that you can say about this season was the special teams unit. Chris Banjo is a hell of a special teams coach.
Right.
And Isaiah Williams is the comeback story for him. Bravo to him. But other than that, everything else was a disaster.
Yeah. It's been an abject failure, basically. Which is the hard part. So, and just decap.
Why hire head coach that opposite scheme and current personnel? Only AG needs to have a perfect roster. The problem with AG is that the roster that he's got, they're not getting better. I understand you have a lot of an undrafted rookie starting at quarterback because of injuries. Your defensive backs, they have 0 interceptions. They're always in the wrong spot. Most of these guys have been playing for multiple games now. Malachi Moore has been better. He's looked good. But other than that, no other person on this team doesn't. They're in the scheme. I get that. You want scheme fit. But these players have been working in the scheme all year and have gotten worse. The only thing I can say about Jamie and Sherwood is his run defense is still okay.
You're right.
But as a pass blocker, Quincy Williams, we applauded him as a run stuffer and was thinking he was getting better in the pass protection last year. This year, he looked awful. He was getting blown by all the time. It was just terrible to watch.
And, well, I apologize for the brief out again. Like the Jets defense, I guess my streaming service wasn't working tonight.
No, you're good.
But breaking news, which could impact the Jets DC hire. Raheem Morris has been fired from the Falcons.
Wow. He was coming in. People were saying that he could be safe. Get fired after a win. I guess.
Again, I'll be honest. Would Raheem Morris be the worst hire? No, but it would not move the needle for me. I would not be excited with that at all.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
the only one that I would be really, really excited for would be Schwartz or Leonard. Al Harris is an interesting one to me. I don't know why his name is coming up so much. I know he's the defensive backs coach for the Bears, and they've been dominant.
Right. I think it's because with Harris, that back room for the Bears leads the league in interceptions.
And I get that, but their defensive coordinator is a monster with all the schemes that he comes up with. Dennis Allen. He's great when it comes to getting his players where they need to be. And I get Harris is a defensive backs coach. He's played defensive back in this league. But Steve Wilkes was the same way. Steve Wilkes was a defensive backs coach. Why couldn't they follow what he was doing? And he was doing it for years.
Yeah.
So you think a rookie guy is going to come in and light it up right away? Jim Leonard, I have a little bit of faith in, one, because he's a former Jet, but he's also been at that defensive coordinator position when he was in college. That can help you in the NFL. So Harris is a weird one to me.
Yeah, I think with Harris, though, it's just some new blood. And again, I just feel like you need someone that's innovative. And if he can come up with innovative strategy, I think that's why. But again, when you looked at this team at 0 interceptions and you look, well, who leads the league in interceptions? It's the Bears. It's kind of like, oh, okay. But the thing, too, is it almost feels like the Jets secondary, part of the reason that they don't have a pick is the construction because – and look, you can have A.Z. Thomas and Stevens and Brownlee who are good physical at the line and can help lock guys down, but they really need to upgrade the safety position because if you're going to have those type of corners that don't have great ball skills, you have to have safeties that can take risks, that can cut up, that can come up the field and make those plays. And we saw it this year. The Jets did not have that.
And I think that helps out the secondary too. Get your pass rush in. Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson disappeared. And the quarterback had so much time to throw. Getting no pressure doesn't help the linebacking core or the secondary at all. We know our linebackers were bad in coverage, but I think our defensive backs room was actually okay. The only thing is they didn't get any help from the pass rush.
Right. And the thing I look with the pass rush too is, and it goes back to Wilkes and Glenn, like the one thing I wanted to see more, especially down the stretch, was could the blitzing get better? And again, the problem was, that linebacker standing in the gap, we know he's coming because we've seen enough tape. There's no exotic pressure. There's no angles. And look, Jamie and Sherwood and Quincy, they're good at getting downhill. They're good at generating pressure. And in some ways, they probably should have been used more in pass rush this year because we all know their pass coverage. They weren't doing anything out there anyway. So
putting Jamie and Sherwood as an edge rusher, imagine that, him coming off the edge, being able to stop the run. That could be a fun one to watch. It's this whole defense needs to be revamped at each level. Like, I like Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald. Will McDonald's only a specialist pass rusher. He was bad in the run stuffing. Jermaine Johnson, I understand he's coming off a season-ending injury. but he didn't show much this year. I like our defensive tackles. I really do hope they bring Harrison Phillips back. I know they can cut him and save $7.5 million.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I think they need him because they need an adult and a leader in the room.
Exactly. I think that he needs to stay. Juwan Briggs, I think, can get an extension too because I know he's a restricted free agent.
Yeah, he's restricted. I believe it's Mechie is a restricted free agent and Adonai Mitchell is under contract.
Right. So Juwan Briggs definitely staying.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind keeping Jamie Sherwood because of the run stuffing ability.
And you have to fill so many needs.
Exactly. You need to fill so many needs. But bringing in like an Arvell Reese at one of the edge positions / linebackers because he can cover too. And then Sonny Styles on the other side or a CJ Allen to be your middle linebacker, that could be solid. And then you move Jamie Sherwood to weak side or strong side linebacker. And I think that would be better suited for him because at the Mike position, he struggled.
Yeah, and we saw it last year too when CJ got hurt. Like they just get bullied in the running game. Like especially if they can get someone coming up into the second level, they just really struggle. I mean, another guy I'd keep an eye on too is Jake Golday from Cincinnati. Again, bigger body, 6'4", 237. I really like the size that he brings to the table. To me, he's a guy you could target with that Dallas 44th pick potentially. So, but look, the Jets have a lot of work. And the hard part is even if they hit on the majority of this, it just still feels like they are so far away, and they also have to develop a quarterback. And look, I don't know if that's Ty Simpson late in the first round. They have to draft a quarterback at some point. They cannot go into the season with the bridge. And look, I feel they're going to draft a quarterback. The big question is when they're going to pull the trigger.
I wouldn't be shocked if, and this is a big if Moore doesn't come out, Ty Simpson does. I think they're going to pass on Ty Simpson. I don't think they would draft him. I think you'd be more likely to see like a Drew Allar in the later rounds or a Carson Beck that they would go after. That's who I think they would target. Because Drew Allar, I like him a lot. The injury was very scary for him. He's got the prototypical size as a quarterback and the cannon of an arm that you want. The decision making is what he needs to work on. But he could take a big round swing because he was looked at as being one of the best quarterbacks going into this year. Carson Beck, the same thing. I think Carson Beck is more of a system fit than Drew Allar for our offense because he's all about timing and he can read a defense very, very well. It's just his consistency is the big issue. So I can see one of those guys being a pick in the later rounds for the Jets at quarterback.
Right. And the thing with Beck, too, he doesn't like to push the ball down the field. I think what was the last game? He was averaging, 5.5 per attempt. So, again, I don't think that would be a bad pick. But the other thing, too, is they need to draft a rookie to show just that if they're going to take that swing in 2027, for example, that they know how to at least make a rookie quarterback work or function. Because we saw with an undrafted Brady Cook, it did not work at all.
Right.
And I think they need to show this fan base and the ownership, we could put a quarterback in the right position. And maybe it'll be a dark horse, like maybe Joe Fagnano out of UConn potentially. Again, he's a bigger body, older player, reminds me a lot of kind of like a Tyler Shuck type, being a 25-year-old prospect. But Tyler Shuck looks pretty darn good in New Orleans right about now.
Could you see us going after like a Dak Prescott for a trade?
The thing is, why would Dallas move off of Dak? Is the hard
because they got
thing.
Joe Milton, who's got a ton of upside, who they traded for.
He didn't look too great against the Giants today.
Valid.
That's one of the reasons we have the higher pick.
Valid.
I just don't think they're moving on. And it's funny because you mentioned Dallas. Outside of the Raiders, every team that hired their head coach last year, I feel is pretty good. Even the Dallas, we were all laughing that they hired Schottenheimer, and you feel he actually looks pretty good, especially on the offensive side. So I don't think Dak and the other, I know this is going to be talked about too. I think Joe Burrow, I don't think he gets traded. I think they will try to do everything possible to make him happy.
Sorry about that.
I guess your house is haunted.
Apparently. My
it's
wife's playing a game in there with friends and screaming for some reason.
Yeah, she's haunted by the 2025 Jets defense.
My daughter came up to me the other day. We were at my parents' house. She went up to my stepmom and she's like, I'm not a Jets fan anymore. She's 4, mind you.
Yeah.
And my stepmom's like, what are you? An Eagles fan.
Oh, God.
I didn't tell her anything. And she looked at me today. She's like, can we put the Eagles game on? I'm like, the Jets are on right now.
You could have been a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, for Travis Kelce, is it the end of an era?
Yes, I think he retires.
Oh, yeah. New heights.
Kenyon Sadiq, I think, is going to be perfect for them.
Yeah, I think that will definitely be good. And look, we're getting a couple suggestions, Chanel and Avalon. Look, it is a good free agent class. You need to make the smart investments, though. Like, that, to me, is going to be key. And you have to have a plan. Like, that's what I think bothers me most. It doesn't feel like there's a plan for Will McDonald. There wasn't a plan for Quincy. There wasn't a plan for Sherwood. Like, it just felt like, oh, we'll figure it out eventually. Well, there's 17 games. You sure didn't figure it out.
Right. So I hope they come up with a plan for Will McDonald because he can be a very special pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
But Jermaine Johnson was the biggest worry for me because I'm like, he's supposed to be our elite guy, and it came up very small. Leo Chanel, I think, would be a great option for a linebacker. And Anzalone, if they sign both of them, cool. I doubt they do. They have all this money, which they could.
Yeah.
They could pull a New England Patriots and just beef up free agency with all the money they have.
They definitely could. Well, you also bring up New England, too, and I think this is a good point to bring up, too. People have kept saying, well, the Patriots were geniuses. The Patriots are smart. The Patriots had a layup. They had Mike Vrabel. They knew Vrabel wanted to coach. Vrabel can coach. And the other option would be Vrabel would go to the Jets. Again, I don't know how much that was. I think it was kind of more pushing Robert Kraft to be like, hey, like, I'm actually interested in coaching. Like, I don't see that option, unfortunately, right now. Like, the best option for me was Brian Flores, but they interviewed him last year, and I don't think he would come here at this point because they didn't give him the job last year. Why would he come now? Like, I don't see a great offensive coordinator coming here and taking this job right now. Like, last year, there's like Ben Johnson. There was a lot of great coaching candidates. This year, there might be some big names, but I also wouldn't be shocked this time Tomlin take time off. He's been doing it for over 20 years. Maybe he wants a break or go to do media like Peyton did for a couple of years. Harbaugh might be the same way too. These guys, Stefanski might be the one that stays around and coaches. But these other head coaches, they've been doing it for 10, 15 years. Maybe they just want to break and recharge and do what Payne did. Take a couple years out of the game, and if they have that itch to come back, they will have plenty of teams that will be looking for them.
I was going to say, look at exactly the same thing with John Gruden.
Yeah.
When he decided to come back coaching, the Raiders hired him and gave him such a monster contract just to come back. I think, the Patriots did have a layup, but I also think there was a lot more going on with Gerard Mayo as well over there. The players turned on him. There was a lot of issues internally. I think he had it out with Kraft as well. So there were a lot of things going on there. This year, for the Jets too, even if they were to fire Glenn, I don't think, like you said, an established coach would want to be here. You'd have to hire like a Clint Kubiak, a brand new guy, or a Joe Brady, or even probably a younger offensive mind or somebody else, a new coach that wants it, that doesn't know any better to come to the Jets. Joe Brady would be a one, though.
And the hard part is, if the Jets, let's say, if this was the 2027 draft and there's 3 or 4 different flavors of quarterbacks one of these offensive guys could take, they'd love it. But this is going to be such a thin quarterback class that, I mean, if they had the number 1 pick, I also wonder, do you pull the trigger on Glenn if a guy really loves Mendoza? But, it just feels like, once again, the Jets are stuck here. And, I mean, I love Kev with the great content. Does Bill have a book? At this point, I don't know if we should let Bill Parcells, because apparently they talk to each other every week. But
yeah. He talks to Parcells every week about what he can do better as a head coach.
I don't know what's not sinking in either way. Yeah. Again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line. Your comments and questions, get them in here again. We're breaking down the eulogy of the 2025 Jets season. Of course, the Falcons also firing their GM, moments ago. Terry Fontenot, 36 and 48 with the Falcons. I have an interesting name. Again, I wonder if he gets an offensive coordinator job, but I would look at Brian Dable to be the quarterback coach potentially if he wants it.
Brian Dable a lot. I think he becomes the offensive coordinator wherever Flores goes. Because they have a connection with the Patriots and everything. I think wherever Flores goes, let's say Flores gets hired by the Raiders, I think Dable comes in as the offensive coordinator.
But what about McCown, though? Because remember, that was part of the combination was McCown was the OC technically, or I don't know if he's the OC. He's definitely at least the quarterback's coach in Minnesota. I think he's the OC, even though O'Connell basically calls all the plays there. Because that was my dream, was getting McCown and Flores last year.
That would be, I don't know, because I think McCown would want to stay with the Vikings, in all honesty. I think he'd want to stay there and learn. If he's given the job as OC for the Vikings, that'll catapult him to a head coaching job, because being behind the O'Connell over there, I think that would help him get a head coaching job somewhere else. Brian Dable is an interesting one. I don't know if he's going to get another head coaching job yet, but I think him and Flores as head coach, Flores and offensive coordinator, Brian Dable would be a fun thing to watch.
I definitely feel at the minimum he would get at least a quarterback, probably an OC job. But you bring up an interesting point, and let's change gears a little bit here because, again, we talked Jets ad nauseum, and, again, we need to, I guess, refresh our palate here. Here's an interesting one with the Raiders. Do you think it is that coveted of a job? Because, yes, they have the number one pick to get Fernando Mendoza, but here's the problem. Who is in that division? Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, who, again, I think will reload for a year or two, but I have a feeling they're not going anywhere. Like, they're not done. They're still going to be a competitive team. You have the Chargers now in that division, and now you have the number one seed in the AFC, the Denver Broncos. Like, if you don't feel Mendoza is going to be in that weight class of a quarterback, is it, again, like, does it that desirable job? Because the AFC West it's a dogfight.
Oh, yeah. But it's the same thing. Like, if you argue for a head coach to come in here, you're in a division with Josh Allen, you're in a division with Drake May, and the most fearsome one, Tua Tagovailoa, who might not even be there next year.
He's gone. They're gonna eat the $99 million.
Watch him go to Pittsburgh and somewhere and light it up there.
It's possible. The only thing I just worry about is his health. I just think he's taking such a beating, and I feel like, again, as someone who's had experience with concussions, you have that fear in the back of your mind, and I do think you see that when he plays. He's not trying to get hit, and unfortunately, I think that's going to impact his career. I mean, the one quarterback I laugh at to the Jets is the Kyler Murray ones, where it's like, well, if the Cardinals pay us draft picks, we'll take Kyler Murray, but I don't know how that's going to work with Aaron Glenn, because Murray's got to play, I think, at least X amount of Call of Duty hours a day, or is it Fortnite at this point? I don't know.
I actually recorded a video today. I didn't post it yet, but it was about Kyler Murray possibly getting released by the Cardinals. Should the Jets go after him? I said I wouldn't trade for Kyler, but if he comes here on a 1-year prove-it deal or something like that, or a 2-year deal to be a bridge quarterback, I think he's still got something left in the tank. But similar to like the Jared Goff situation, a lot of people wrote him off from the Rams. He goes over to the Detroit Lions and has tons of success. Would Kyler have a ton of success here? Not sure. He should probably play in a dome, but I think a new scenery could be very good for him. Then if you sign him, you don't have to worry about drafting a quarterback this year. You can wait till the year after, where you have the opportunity to let a young quarterback sit behind Kyler Murray as that bridge quarterback, and then just let him walk into the sunset after the 2027 season.
And that's a fascinating one, because I'm thinking in my head what teams might look to offer him. And I immediately go to the NFC, because the AFC's just got so many quarterbacks. I just get the feeling that you're right. I don't think there's going to be a huge market for Kyler Murray, but do they really want to take another shot with another quarterback that's had developmental issues in terms of their progress in the game? When you say it that way, it's terrible to say. That might be one of the better options at this point. It's again, because the options are not great. Let's be frank, especially on the quarterback market.
Hey, we could always go down the Gardner Minshew route.
Oh, God. I love Gardner Minshew, to be honest. I still think I would have rather this team sign Jameis Winston. That's who I wanted this team to sign last offseason. Well, speaking of the quarterbacks, I mean, it's going to be talked about this offseason. Lamar Jackson. If the Ravens called you and said, we want the number 2 pick in the draft in another first round either next year, do you make that trade?
Yes.
I know where you. So the only reason I am hesitant is the Ravens are one of the most well-run organizations in the sport. They have been for 25 years. If they're willing to move off of a 2-time MVP and they're having issues in that locker room and that culture, having him buy in, what's going to happen when he comes here? Like, I just don't think it will work well. It might work great for a year, but I just don't see it working out great if the Ravens are that. Because, again, getting a great quarterback is so hard in this league. If they're willing to move on, it almost says, like, there's something else there that concerns me.
And, well, they're interested in moving off of Harbaugh, too.
Yeah.
Because those two are basically attached at the hip. If one of them goes, the other's probably going to.
Right.
So, with Lamar, I think it would be – I would do it definitely because of the pedigree of quarterback that he is. I think Tanner Engstrand would be able to dial up more exciting plays for him too to help protect himself. And if you bring in an offensive assistant like a Todd Haley or a Doug Peterson or something like that, they can help dial up more plays for him too. Now, the big thing is, would he want to come here? I don't know if he has a no trade clause in his contract. Probably does. If Joe Burrow does, he probably does.
Yeah, so, they pretty much all do.
Yeah. It would be a fun one with Lamar. Does it happen? No, I don't think so.
Now, you know what might be a dark horse place for Lamar? Could you imagine the Raiders trading number 1? Ravens take Mendoza, and Lamar Jackson is a Raider and goes up against Mahomes twice a year, Herbert twice a year, Bo Nix twice. Because again,
that would be exciting.
Because again, the Raiders are always a team. They want to be more of a show than a team, and especially in Vegas, they need attention. I mean. If that happens, you got to come back on the show right away, and we got to, because I can see it. The Raiders have done crazy stuff all the time. Nothing would put. I can't put anything past the Raiders at this point.
With Lamar, if he ended up going to the Raiders, that would be the most exciting division in football. With Kyler, I'll bring back Kyler for a minute. I could definitely see him going to Minnesota. As well. I think that could be a fun one because there already rumors are that they're looking at veteran options. He gets cut. I think O'Connell would take him in a heartbeat as a 1-year option for McCarthy to learn behind.
Yeah, how much is Minnesota kicking themselves for not signing Sam Darnold though? Oh my God. And I'm happy. I'm really happy for Sam. Like again, I still think Joe Douglas made the big mistake of moving off. But I also don't think he doesn't get to this point if he doesn't get humbled in Carolina. He doesn't sit basically in San Francisco for multiple years and then gets to Aiden O'Connell. I mean, there's so many steps in this journey, but I'll say it. I'm so happy for Sam. Always a great kid here. I just feel horrible because they could never put a team around him.
Yeah, it was never his fault here.
Yeah.
It was the coaching. It was just when you have Robbie the Chosen One as your number 1 receiver, that's bad. Imagine if Sam Darnold had the team that Zach Wilson had, who was Garrett Wilson as your number 1. You had a better offensive line. You had better defense. Sam Darnold would have won more games and everything. You kick yourself for it, but I'm glad he's doing very well in Seattle right now. They clinched the number 1 seed, which was exciting. So,
yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, that would have been fascinating. Like if you were to tell me at the beginning of the season, and again, this Jet season went off the rails, but that the number 1 seeds would be Seattle and Denver, I would have said you're crazy. Again, even look at the AFC. The Patriots are number 2. Jaguars are top 4 team. Like we all thought Liam Cohen was going to be a disaster. We all laughed at Duval.
Oh my God. Just to show what he's done as head coach is an amazing thing too.
Yeah, it's just, and again, it all comes back to this. Like, I just don't see Aaron Glenn being the long-term guy. I hope I'm wrong, but you're betting on such outliers, and you look at all the statistics, he would be the anomaly if he succeeds. And I also look at Detroit, which ironically he stopped talking about, but you look at Detroit. If you asked any fan of Detroit today, if you could have gone over and kept Ben Johnson or made him the head coach and moved off of
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell. Sorry, I blanked on the name for a second.
No, you're good.
Like, they would say, give me Ben Johnson. And that's part of the thing I worry about with Glenn. Like, let's play a hypothetical. Let's say they get Jim Leonard. And let's say the Jets finish 7-10, 8-9 next year, but the defense goes from not having a pick, having 4 turnovers, to being a middle-of-the-road defense. If that happens, you don't think Jim Leonard's getting phone calls about being a head coach because he turned the Jets' woeful defense around, made them respectable? Like, that's the problem with, like, the Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn types. Like, they have to keep hitting on the coordinators, and if they don't, this is what happens. Like, he missed on Wilkes. If he misses on this next DC, we know he's not going to have a job. But if he somehow hits miraculously on this DC, do I trust he's going to then find the next DC afterward? It just seems like a very bad long-term outcome for Aaron Glenn, even if he does have some success next year.
And Leonard, I really want Leonard to be the DC next year. I think that could be a very fun one. The one name I've been hearing passed around too, which could be very interesting, is Wink Martindale.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be one that you'd be liking a lot too? Or
I like the concept. The thing with Martindale is I would love it just because it would be such a talking point with Giant fans, but he's already butted heads with Brian Daboll. And he kind of reminds me of the Adam Gase situation back in 2020, where basically was you had 2 head coaches. You had a head coach of the defense, you had a head coach of the offense. And I could just see, especially if the defense is having success and the offense is terrible, Wink Martindale could have a fight with this offensive staff. Like, I'm doing my job. You're not scoring enough points. I love Wink, but I wouldn't, he would be like, I'd hire him before Raheem Morris. There's a bunch of guys I would rather, like, I would take Wink over them. I just don't know if it's going to fit. And I just don't know if Aaron Glenn's going to be able to control him. Because, again, Wink's also got a track record. Like, Wilkes had a track record. It just was a terrible track record. But I wouldn't mind Wink. I think it'd be good. I just don't know if Aaron Glenn's going to go out there. And I also think it's going to be someone that Aaron Glenn has some connection to, or Muji has connection to. The one reason I think Leonard makes sense, I mean, they picked they got the special teams coach off of the Broncos staff. And again, Muji was in that organization. I think that connection could help bring Leonard in. So, but I don't hate Wink Martindale. Is there any other DCs that you would want to see potentially added? I know you talked about Wink. We talked a little bit about Al Harris.
An interesting one was Todd Bowles if he was fired from the Bucs. I don't think he'd come back here at all.
According to the beat, there is a lot of beef between Bowles and the Jets. So and well, the feeling too is Bowles is also in his 60s. The feeling is, that basically he would retire is the general consensus. But I mean, the hard part basically right now is we're just waiting on the biggest thing for us is Dante Moore. If Dante Moore comes out, that changes his outcome because you're getting a quarterback. Right. And there is a world where maybe the Jets still end up with Fernando Mendoza if Moore comes out, because the Raiders are always that team that likes the upside. And never forget, the Sam Darnold draft's the perfect example. For 4 months, we had Sam Darnold locked into number 1. The only thing was leading a couple hours before the draft was when it started to change. But for 4 months, we basically debated. We didn't even talk about Sam Darnold because, he's going to Cleveland. Do we want Baker? Do we want Josh Allen? Do we want Lamar Jackson? I mean, right now we take any of them, but I'm just curious to see who they bring in through free agency and again the draft. The draft day 3 is going to be so important. And can they find their Puka Nacua? That'd be great. But even just role players, if you get me a guy like what Bryce Huff was early in his career, someone that's just a great third down pass rush specialist, maybe has 3 or 4 sacks, but generates a lot of pressure, or you give me a really good early down linebacker, maybe plays 15, 20 snaps, but is solid in run defense. Like just some guys that will have a positive contributing role to the team and not just feel like roster space, like Tyler Barron. Like he felt like a wasted roster space this year. Kiko, like Arian Smith was great gunning the end of the season, but your 4th round pick shouldn't just be a gunner. Like you need some production from him. So again, I think for Muji, I think that's going to be a big test. And I also wouldn't be surprised if he makes 2 or 3 trades to do what he did with like Brownlee, bring in an NFL young player who a team maybe has lost value on.
One player that I would love, and I've been wanting the Jets to trade for him for a while, is Eagles Jordan Davis. I think he'd be a very fun one on the defensive line with his size, can bounce inside and out.
Yeah,
he's a fun one to talk about as well. That would be a cool trade if the Jets could do that one, but I think the Eagles like him too much. And you're right, though. They have to hit on the late round picks because Jacob Rodriguez could be like a Blake Cashman type of player.
Right.
He could turn into that monster of a linebacker. Worry about injuries, but he's got that size. He's got power. He's not afraid to hit you, stuff like that. And he's decent in coverage. I think he is going to start skyrocketing up boards too with how he tests.
Yeah, and again, the draft is going to change so much. Like we will get to the Senior Bowl, we'll see all these different players. And my big thing too, and I do a lot of draft content on this channel, but I don't really dive into it because especially now, I wait to see who declares. Because the NIL now, it's made it so difficult. And a part of me always will wonder if the NFL will ever kind of step in and be like, hey, we need some guys to come out to the NFL. So, but you're right. I mean, there's going to be some interesting guys that mid-tier range. I could see the Jets maybe moving back, but maybe they address this team in different ways. Like maybe they go look at like a Derek Moore. I think it's going to be very telling to see what type of players they've been. Like I look at Derek Moore from Michigan. He's very productive player, but again, a little bit more of a stiffer player. He's not going to beat you with speed, but he's just a powerful bull rusher. But maybe he's a good edge setter, first 2 downs, and can come out and kick inside on 3rd down and allows Will McDonald to eat on the outside. Like it's going to be interesting how they build this team and the type of players that they're going to target. But the silver lining is the top needs are receiver, outside of quarterback, receiver, edge rusher, linebacker, secondary. What are the 4 strengths of this draft outside of quarterback? It's those 4 positions, which also is really exciting.
There's a player in the 3rd round that I would love if the Jets traded one of their 2nd rounds back or even traded their 2nd first round back to still be in the 1st round, but acquire a 3rd round pick. Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. I think he could be a legit number 2 receiver. He reminds me so much of like a Brandon Marshall type, just physical. He's not going to blow you away with his speed, but he will go up and get that ball. And he's a leader in the locker room, one of the more vocal players on that team. He is a monster of a receiver, good red zone threat, and will run people over as well. So he's somebody I could see on day 2 in the 3rd round being a very, very good receiver.
Well, one guy I would like probably in the 3rd round would be Cage Casey. He's the left tackle for Boise State. I think he projects more as a guard, but looking at what the Jets are looking at, they could definitely use that. I think he's got very good athleticism. Again, a little bit of a down season, but I really like he's good in pass pro, but he can get to the 2nd level. He has good athleticism, but I think it's athleticism that translate inside better than on the outside.
Anybody with versatility on the offensive line, I would take, take right away. Cage Casey's one that I've looked at, really like him a lot. I think he's just got to keep his pad level because if he can, he will be a dominant run blocker with that size and everything. Another one I like is the I think he's the right guard from Kansas. Can't think of his name right off the bat. But he's really, really good. Banks, I think it is. Yeah. He's really good in the run game. Needs to better himself in the pass blocking, but as a run blocker, he's pretty good.
So one guy I'd also look at too, especially in the mid-round range, I think the Jets should look to get at least 2 receivers. Again, they just need weapons. One guy I would really like would be Skylar Bell out of UConn. Again, I've covered a lot of UConn, but very good runner, could create separation, played above the rim. again, he's a bit smaller, but he plays a little bit bigger than his size. But I just look at him. He's just a solid all-around player. Like, they moved him inside, they moved him outside, was very good at yards after the catch. I just look at him, again, some of the technique needs some polish, but to me, he's a guy that could compete for your number 3 spot, and maybe by the end of year 1 could be pushing that number 2 receiver. So like, that would be someone I would also look to in the mid-round. Again, I've covered a lot of UConn. That's why I have it inside. But again, UConn also won 8 games this year, so we're doing something right.
What would be your opinion if the Jets drafted like an Elijah Surratt with their second round pick? Would that be somebody you would want to target, or would you be like, all right, happy to move on from? I like Elijah Surratt. I think he could be good.
I do like Elijah Surratt, like in the second round.
Yeah.
I would like him. Again, the hard part with the thing with Elijah, I look at too, though. Again, I love the size, especially being over 6 feet. I would want to see, especially some of the workouts, because it's one of those things too. He has the best quarterback in college football right now. Like, how much does that also impact the production? But again, I do think in that second round range, I would definitely consider. I think that's a good spot in the second round.
Because if they can get, let's say, like him and Thieneman in the second round, 1 safety, 1 receiver, I think that would be a great steal too. And then get like an RJ Harvey as a backup slot cornerback later in the draft.
Right. And again, that's, I think, going to be part of the fun with this is there's going to be a lot of different ways the Jets can attack this. And I mean, look, I also know too, there will be people I know that will mention Caleb Downs with the second pick. And I love Caleb Downs, but that's a little too early.
Too high for safety.
I mean, if he's sitting there at 15, you could talk me into it. But I'm just really curious too. Like, do the Jets also look at D tackle? This is a really deep D tackle class. One player I doubt they're going to go after, and I know Danger Zone's not going to love this, is Kenyon Sadiq. He keeps saying, and again, I love Kenyon Sadiq, but I think there's so many other needs in Mason Taylor and Jeremy Rucker. I think you're fine at tight end. You want to obviously get better, but there's so many freaking holes on this team. Like, you just address the holes. Like, and then like, if we get to a point where, okay, we can upgrade the tight end, that is definitely a position I would look to.
Yeah.
Lander Bard, the linebacker, 6'5", hits like a tank for a former running back. I mean, I'm definitely going to check out the tape. I know Drooms is a big Ruben Bain fan. Bain's going to be a polarizing prospect because you look at the production, it's great. He's been great in the college football playoff. The thing, though, is he doesn't have a great wingspan. Like, I think the measurables are going to hurt him in the pre-draft process. But look, he's a highly productive player. He's going to be a top 15 pick, in my opinion.
I think he drops. It's still going to be a top 15 pick, like you said. But I think the wingspan is going to be a very big concern for a lot of teams because his biggest thing is a bull rush. And with those short arms that he's got, bigger tackles and who have better technique are going to be able to just stall him. So that bull rush ain't going to work. So he's going to need to build up more of a pass repertoire with speed rushing. I think Messidor, the other guy from Miami, could skyrocket up boards too. I think he ends up having the better career than Bain.
Yeah, well, we also drafted a defensive end from Miami last year.
That's true.
I know it was later, but I'm a little skeptical on that. So one player I'm also very intrigued about too. I think there's going to be especially how he tests is Denzel Boston.
Oh yeah.
I think when you look, he does a really great job, but it's one of those things you look at the size difference when he's going against these really smaller, less physical corners in college. I'm not sure how he's going to translate to the next level. I think testing will be a big thing. I think he will definitely also be on one of the radars. Although I laughed at one of the mock drafts. I saw the Jets taking a corner, or one of the national people said they're going to take a corner.
Like Brandon Cease or something like that.
If they took a corner, like Caleb Downs would be one thing with this fan base. If they took a corner,
Jamal McCoy coming to the Jets.
Oh yeah, they would just go absolutely nuts. Or Colton Hood in the second round.
Oh my God.
Someone like that. They would just go absolutely nuts over that. Here's an interesting player I also think too. And again, I think a lot of it will depends on what happens with Brees. But do you look at like a Jadarian Price in round 2?
No, I think running back is interesting. I
Yeah.
don't think we take a running back till much later.
Right.
The one guy from where did he go to college? North Dakota State, Pinu.
Mm-hmm.
I really like him. He's really good. I think could be a great late round steal. I think the biggest things we're going to try to target are receiver, D line. Caden McDonald, if he's there in the early second, I think you have to run to the podium for him. He reminds me a lot of a Will Fork, just clogging those holes and everything. Not the best pass rusher, but a guy who could stall that run game very, very well.
Yeah. Again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line. We'll be wrapping up shortly. But the other thing, too, I look with this draft, too, is, and I've seen a lot of debate with the wide receiver position, and I'm glad you brought it up. Do you think the Jets are better off trying to get a veteran number 2, whether free agency, like let's say Alec Pierce hits the mark again? It'd be a lot of money, but the Jets also have a lot of money. And especially with a young quarterback, because again, Garrett's great as your number 1, but do you risk the development of the quarterback while you're having that development of a wide receiver? Now, look, I think they're going to take a wide receiver in this draft, but instead take it with one of the top 4 picks, and maybe there's a scenario where they take one of those day 3 picks or 2 of them and trade for a veteran that we're not talking about on the market. Like, do you have a preference as addressing this number 2 receiver? I want a little bit more of a veteran, and part of that too is I just don't know if this offensive staff is going to elevate that rookie, especially in their first season. So it might be better to get a slightly more proven commodity.
I would go the opposite. I would rather them draft a guy. Like, I love Carnell Tate, and if they picked him at 2, I wouldn't mind, because I think he's the best receiver in this draft. Great route running. I think he complements Garrett Wilson very well. And then you could do different things with Garrett Wilson. Put him in the slot with Carnell Tate and A.D. Mitchell on the outside. Could open up a lot more things for him. Denzel Boston, I think, could be a fun one as well. It does a lot of different things than Garrett Wilson. I'd rather get a younger guy that you can mold and to try to fit in your system rather than dish out tons of money for a more experienced guy. Alec Pierce, I would love him. He ain't coming here. He'd want to go to a winning team, or he'd go back to Indianapolis before he came here. I don't know.
I don't think Sauce Gardner's too happy in Indianapolis right now.
That's on him, man. That's on him. That's a quarterback we can go for. Daniel Jones, the veteran.
Yeah, coming off, in a walking boot in the preseason.
Hell, Phillip Rivers can come in and play a couple games. Daniel Jones can come in and play with a boot.
Well, I guess one receiver in this draft, Jordan Tyson, how concerned are you about the injuries? Because 2 receivers I'm very fascinated. Tyson I like because, again, I think he's a good complement to Gary. The other one I really like in this draft is Lemon out of USC. But I love Lemon, but the problem I have with him, though, is, again, smaller, more of a slot receiver, but Garrett's better in the slot. Do you need to find someone that complements Garrett better as opposed to Lemon?
I think getting a bigger bodied guy would be beneficial to complementing Garrett. Like a Carnell Tate, I really like. I just said that. Tyson, the injuries do concern me. I actually have Boston rated higher than him in my mind because of the injuries that Tyson has. And I always go by the old adage, if you're injured in college, you're going to be injured in the NFL.
Right.
And that's the biggest worry for me. This kid's got all this talent, but he's going to miss multiple games for you every single year. Denzel Boston, I don't think is going to miss a ton of games for you. And he's got the best hands in this draft. Surefire guy. Doesn't drop anything. Great at high pointing the ball. He's somebody I would take over a Jordan Tyson.
Right. And again, the size for him, 6'4", 210. Like, he doesn't have to be running 4'6", 4'5". If he's just your outside big possession, throw it up in the end zone type of guy. Like, again, like you saw Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall wasn't necessarily a burner, but he can attack above the rim. And that's why he had such a long career and aged very well in this league. Even at the end, he wasn't going to beat guys down the field, but you just throw him the ball in that area, he was going to catch it.
Well, look at D-Hop, too, when he was with the Ravens. He's catching passes, still getting touchdowns. Didn't have the best career or best year with the Ravens, but he's been dominating with them. He's been doing good with them, and he catches everything. He's still a big-bodied receiver, too.
Yeah, and I also laugh, too, because I look at this draft. Like, there's going to be so many different flavors of receiver. It's basically who you prefer. I think Tate's still the number 1. I think he's clearly – that Ohio State team, I mean – they're not going to break the Miami record like of first-round draft picks, but they're going to have a lot of names called in Pittsburgh night one. So that's definitely going to be very exciting. And I just am so fascinated with this draft too. Like the biggest domino is Dante Moore. Once his decision is made, it's going to impact how we view how the Jets are going to attack this draft. Because right now, if he comes out, they're taking a quarterback with one of the top two picks. If he doesn't, then we get into, well, Arvell Reese. Is it Caleb Downs? Or maybe you love Arvell Reese, but a team might like him a little bit more and will throw you an extra pick or two. I mean, it is a deep class, so we will definitely have to see. But, I mean, overall, like, let's just wrap this up because, like, the sad part is despite the hope the draft will give us, despite the hope free agency gives us, I feel like the ultimate thing is this. I sit here today and I just don't have confidence. Like my idea of the best case scenario is the Jets have a great draft. They find a quarterback who they don't somehow screw up next offseason. And we just get through the season and we get to the end of the year and it's like, okay, the Jets have a good foundation. They can either draft a quarterback in the next draft or build around whoever they draft this year and find the right head coach. Because right now, if you ask me today, is Aaron Glenn the head coach of this team in 2027? I don't think so. I think if he wasn't a great Jet and he didn't have this relationship with Woody Johnson, and if Woody Johnson hadn't fired Robert Saleh midseason last year, because again, that will be two coaches in 16 months. Like, I just think that the problem is they're doing this more for a PR reason, which is frustrating because I think we know what the movie is. It's going to be Aaron Glenn is fired at the end of next season. Like, what are your thoughts? And do you have any kind of hope for the staff? Again, I think the biggest hope is do they hire the right DC, but the track record, not looking too good.
I want Aaron Glenn to succeed because he is one of us.
Yeah.
Do I see it happening? No. I think he does get fired at the end of next season after another bumpy season. The D coordinator, I hope it's Leonard. I hope it's somebody that shows a lot of promise. I feel like he's going to try to hire internally, and maybe we keep Chris Harris as the DC. I would hate that. That would be my biggest worry. But I don't know. His decision-making hasn't given me any hope for the future with this team. The only thing I would hope is if they did fire AG, keep Muji, because I think he's done a good enough job to stay here.
Right. And I agree with that. The hard part, too, is, and I said the deadline, you knew when they traded Sauce Quinn they were getting a second year because the ownership had us off and they basically said, look, we got to re-blow this up. And it's been ugly, but I just get this feeling that unfortunately, I don't think Aaron Glenn's going to be the right head coach. And again, I think he's going to hire someone on the inside or Chris Harris, and we're going to be disappointed in the product. And it's just frustrating because you just watch this team. And again, it just feels like every other franchise can either get a break or catch a lucky bounce. And for whatever reason, it's the Jets can never seem to get that break, which is just so maddening. And you just hope that by chance, the football gods will smile on us and we'll be able to at least build a good foundation through this draft. Because the worst thing is they come out of this draft with even more holes, and it's going to just be even a taller task for the next regime to take over.
Yeah.
So
just give us hope, AG. Just please give us hope for next year.
Well, the best news I guess we can say is this. We will not be doing a live stream after next Sunday's game because there is no more football in 2020. And again, Aaron Glenn can't come in and say we are undefeated in 2026. And yes, it is a frustrating season, but it's over, and it's our season for Jet fans. It's the offseason. We will have so much great content, including NFL Draft Free Agency on this channel, and, of course, the Jets War. Check out his channel. His description and his X links are all below. Lots of great content. He's also teased some good videos that are coming out this week, so make sure you like, subscribe to see that. Until next time, I'm your host, Nolan Rich, and this has been Rich Sports Talk. We will see you in the offseason.